Hi. So in today's video, I'll be telling you about my second professor, Ms. Kasia Bazarnik, and my first opportunity to write and publish when I was still in high school, and my second opportunity to write and publish with Anthony Cassay. So off we go. 3 writing projects. This is included in Piglet. So if that's something for you, stay tuned and let's start. So when it comes to Miss Kasia Bazarnik, she actually had this, literary intuition, I would say. And, she introduced us to a different version of a translation of Winnie the Pooh, which was Freja Fifi. And I really like that name because, I didn't know it back then that Winnie the Pooh is actually a male bear with a female name, because Polish translation doesn't reflect that at all. It's just Kubuś, Jacob. So, yeah. And as much as I like him, then I'm going to watch that tale too once again. So, we also learned from Ms. Kasia about stilometry, and keywords that you could just put your entire book, copy it, scan it into the machine called stilometry, invented by in another lecturer, Jan Rubicki. And if you put it into the system, then you can see, what are your keywords? What are the words that you use the most frequently? And that was very interesting. So I regret I haven't done that, but maybe, who knows? And when it comes to, writing, basically, my MA thesis, that was pretty much a challenge for me, because back then that was the time for me when I couldn't build a consistent utterance, a fluent utterance, where I would be losing words, and it was really hard back then. So Ms. Kasia really helped with the resources, and as much as I just love to be like, self that I made it, then with regard to this project, I really needed and relied on the help of a lot of people. So I worked with 2 of my sisters when it comes to analysis, and I asked my photography teacher, Jan Gomoa, for help, and Ms. Kasia helped me a lot, like with great sources like Chaga Tribe. So that's a story described by Bruno Bettelheim. It describes a tribe that had a habit of, men pretending that they do not go to the toilet to make a poo, and therefore they would go to do that in the forest, and they had to, dig their shit into the earth with the stick. So, and then they would come back and pretend they just didn't do it. And then when they get older, then natural bodily functions, they do not keep up anymore. So therefore the older people do defecate, do go to the toilet. Yeah. I don't know. I just, that game of pretend and, shit was the topic of my MA that I was writing about. So, and there were other references like 5 times about translation, or Polish talking. A lot of books that I actually used and I liked. We also talked about censorship and borderization. We talked about intertextuality. So this is pretty much what I do when I write about what I write about. When I write about identities, there's a lot of sexually abused people, of lesbians, of gays, of transvestite. There's a lot of intertextuality over there, because there's a lot of linking with the food, with the story, with the film, with the book, with the color, with the taste. Yeah, linking the experience and as if anchoring it. Okay. So, you know, Miss Kasia also has her own publishing house, and she also opened the very first library called Ibero Literature. And Zenon Pfeiffer presented the very first bottle book. So actually, it's kind of, you know, a mysterious thing that brings in mind topics of mystery, survival on the, you know, desert on the island with no people, or you know, it brings in mind the times when there was no post office. So, you know, they also have written two books together, like Oka Leczenie and Opatrzenie. So the first one speaks about, you know, being hurt, but it also speaks about rejuvenating, fixing, um, and the title, like Oka Leczenie, so the treatment of the eye, so to say, um, speaks about a different way of looking, and the colors black and white probably refer to reversed order. No. Okay. I think the second one, opatrzenie, is like, oh, looking, but in Polish, it's also like putting a bandage on someone. So somehow, you know, soothing or fixing yet again. But, you know, as it's all looking, it also speaks to, refers to your eyes and part of the body that looks. And, you know, I just have a strong connection here and association to songs by Kelly Family and the vision depicted in those songs. Yeah, so, mm, but as the entire Ibero literature is about the composition and the words, that the relation between one and the other is more exposed in opatrzenie, in okaleczenie, and basically in Ibero literature. So that's something that's for me a niche, and it's very interesting. Like, you know, I've just noticed that yet again, this is for me the work of the heart, the work of, you know, your passion. If you take care of the niche, then it's definitely for me a work of the heart. And so I was helped with my MA thesis. I was helped a lot, and then my sister told me that you know, because I was late 2 years, I didn't make it on time this time, and I was late like 2 years after the graduation from studies. So that was for me a big reason to feel ashamed. I felt for a long time ashamed that even, you know, if a woman at work asked me like, "How long have you been studying?" then I was like, you know, like feeling, gosh, what to say? Well, you say what it was like, and then you have no problems with thinking what to say. So, yeah, 2 years later, and I was told that they would exchange my professor, and because I just basically adored her, so they exchanged her. And then I got Professor Spila, and he, trust me, he wasn't good. He didn't help me. But it's not about even if he helped me or not. He didn't want to help me. Okay. And then I wanted to tell you also about the magazine that I wrote for, and then the second magazine, which was an online magazine. So the very first one was called Ad Astra, and they came to our high school, and they just asked if we wanted to co-create with them um, their magazine, which is basically a very good idea, because in one school maybe you will not find as many journalists as you would need starting out, for example. So they came around, and I was just happy, you know, having so many interests. I was singing with this opera singer, and I was going to drawing classes, and I was like, yeah, I would like to. So I have no idea why did I finish just with one article. Like, they asked me like right away if I had an idea, and I had an idea what to write about, and I wanted to write about not wearing glasses. So we had this book called Forget About Glasses, and uh, so basically using that. There, I think I was right. I think I was right. Mm. And I created this article, and what happened later, I wanted to conduct an interview with the person who used to sing songs in Bawova streets and play the guitar, and I wanted to conduct an interview with him. But before I even said that, my friend from high school, Marlena, she said like, "Oh, I would so badly want to do the interview with the man who sings." And therefore, I was just like, yeah, I would like to do that too. Uh, but I would do something else. But, I don't remember when, but I think either in high school or in primary school, somewhere I was doing, someone said something, I think it was Mrs. Sedek, about our own magazine. So possibly I started it, and that was pretty much it, together with the cover, and I could do the cover. I was doing the cover for something. Just I'm not sure if that was the reason why I stopped, because I loved it. So yeah, but that was great, and I think she was just a Jewish girl, just came around to show me that this is something to uncover and discover in my life. And then there was Anthony Casse. So I used to go to English Exchange Club, where unfortunately I spent a lot of time with Colin, and I shouldn't have. Just, Colin the caterpillar. We even had this conversation and this reference to the book called The Bugs World. So Anthony Casse, he was a journalist. He had his own portal inside Poland, and basically he let me do whatever I wanted to do. So I would just pick up a topic, and he would say yes or no. But most of the time, I could just go with it and do the article. So that was what I liked. So freedom for Aries, right? Because we like to work on our own. Uh, and I even wrote a few articles that I would keep coming back to. Like, um, I remember the article about African girl and a predator. Uh, so that was a very sad story, and I know I told you in one of the videos it was about Kevin Cartner, who took a photo of the girl, and he didn't care to take her to some safe space from the predator, to the area with some water. And then he won a prestigious academy photography reward, and that was it. And the media started to write that he didn't help her, and he committed a suicide. Um, so I know I told you the story. But, that's the story when we don't see fully two sides, and we because I don't know if he actually helped her, or he didn't help her at all. I don't know if that's true. This is what the press says, but if that's true, then yeah. And then you have to think about the work of the photographer. If he sees like 100 of such girls every day, I don't know. So I also remember I have written, "Be careful what you see, because once you see something, it cannot be unseen." And that was from the quote from the BBC. And then I had my brother-in-law and his sister, who said, "Once you look at something, then it's hard to forget." But she used very, very unusual words in Polish, very, very colloquial words, and even some word formation. So, and she was the one who when I visited her, she just talked about her wardrobe with Valentine's, and she didn't pay attention that I had nothing to add, and I didn't feel like comfortable with being silent and just looking and hearing about the wardrobe and just looking at the trophies, and this is the bear, and this something, and this is like wow. I mean, the people can do that. They can just store in a visible place their Valentines, because I would keep them in the wardrobe or in the drawers. That's, but I think, yeah. But on the other hand, why not? It's nice to have souvenirs in a visible place. Yeah. Okay. So Anthony was the one who was doing the proofreading for me, and I always had lots of language punctuation mistakes. But I always took care of the quality of the text too. And I remember when we were playing Scrabble with Colin Mongardi, and I just couldn't play, and I felt ashamed and I felt slow, and I just didn't have any pleasure from playing because I couldn't think up words and I had to be helped all the time, and I just felt like a moron. Yeah, pretty much. So Anthony also told me that he didn't recommend learning the language when going to sleep, so that is listening when going into altered state of consciousness, and basically the very first time I met him, he told me he was a journalist, and I had this thought, oh, I would like to be a journalist once, just to have the experience and to see how it is, and it happened. So that was cool. um, he wanted me to write about politics, and he wanted me to write those very short news press infos, but where you had to verify facts, but that didn't work too well. And I was really trying to learn anything about politics, because I told him there's so much history in it, and those people build utterance in such a way so that they don't make any sense at all, and they go back in their utterance to something, and you don't know what they are talking about, and they use vulgar terms, and I watched people in the same um, in Poland, and I thought, they are not worth it, because of the culture they presented over there. So, and soon enough, I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I really loved it. And he told me he was selling his portal and he was buying a boat. So, what I have to tell you here is. I just think it was the work of the gypsy, each and every time when I had my professor changed, when Anthony was closing his portal, or even when I stopped writing, when for the very first school magazine at Astra. It's because these people, the gypsy people, worked on that. But I know it for a fact I loved it, so I shouldn't have skipped that, and there's no logical explanation for that. So yeah, if you want to learn more about Piglet, drop me a line at elkinga788@gmail.com. And Piglet is free till the 28th of July. So you can get it, you can read it, you can drop me a line if you liked it or if you didn't like it. And if you want to check out my course, Amelia, then click the link in the description of the film. You will find the info in the description, on my website, on my Facebook and Instagram accounts. And if you like this video, like, share, and subscribe. And thanks for watching.